Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday, June 4th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, the president of Laos now in Beijing as he continues his state visit in China. Iran says its navy's targeted a U.S. destroyer in the Strait of Hormuz, but Washington's denied the claim. The World Health Organization head says he's encouraged by the efforts to fight the Ebola outbreak in the DRC. In business, China pushes back on claims that state subsidies are giving its companies an unfair advantage. In sports, upsets and milestones at the French Open. In culture and entertainment, China's hosting a dialogue on civilization in Dunhuang. Now the day's top stories. The Lao president's in Beijing to continue his state visit in China, which runs through Saturday. Thongloun Sisoulith was in Hangzhou on Tuesday and Wednesday. Sun Ye has more.
Lao President Thongloun Sisoulith has arrived in Beijing to a very warm welcome as the president continues his state visit to China that will run through until Saturday. He has come at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, in the last 2 days, the Lao top leader has been in the Chinese eastern province of Zhejiang, where he visited Chinese tech companies, including Alibaba, where he saw how Lao products could be reaching more Chinese consumers. He also operated on a Chinese robotic dog, and he also saw how AI-powered robotics has been developing in China, as well as other technological developments. The president has also been in the village of Yuncun in Zhejiang. That's a place famous in China for it being integrating ecological protection as well as rural revitalization. Now, in Beijing, the Lao leader is expected to be seeing more Chinese developments in different areas, as well as having key meetings with Chinese officials. Lao national media has previously reported that this visit was aiming at deepening the cooperation and long-standing friendship between the two countries, and also to enhance the comprehensive strategic partnership. And this year also marks the 65th anniversary of bilateral ties.
That was Sun Ye reporting. China and Lao have strengthened cooperation in trade, tourism, and people-to-people exchanges thanks to a landmark railway project between the two countries. Yang Jinghao has more on how the cross-border line is boosting regional connectivity.
A milestone for the China-Laos Railway. Since entering service in late 2021, the cross-border line has operated more than 100,000 passenger train services. Stretching over 1,000 kilometers, it connects Kunming in southwest China with the Lao capital, Vientiane, serving as a key transport corridor between the two countries. This train is setting off from Kunming for Vientiane. Since its launch, the China-Laos Railway has carried more than 73 million passengers. They include around 840,000 cross-border travelers from more than 120 countries and regions. One of them is Kapilom Vanafon, a Lao student and vlogger based in Kunming. As a frequent passenger on the railway, he has witnessed firsthand how it has changed daily life along the route.
Whenever I go home, I take the China-Laos Railway. Each time, I can see how quickly my hometown is developing, with more tourists visiting and more Chinese businesses setting up there.
The railway is bringing Chinese and Lao travelers closer together, while also drawing visitors from around the world, a trend further supported by China's expanded visa-free policies.
It's a very interesting culture for us to discover, and we wanted the children to see China with their eyes, to see how it has changed a lot in 14 years, last time we came.
Beyond passenger travel, the railway is also reshaping regional trade. To date, it has transported around 20 million tons of cross-border cargo, providing a faster and more cost-effective logistics route between China and Southeast Asia. One of the key highlights is the region's growing tropical fruit trade. Official figures show that more than 100,000 tons of tropical fruits entered China via the railway in the first 5 months of this year, with the durian shipments surging.
To meet strong demand during the peak durian season, the Lancang Mekong Express Freight Service operates an average of 3 to 4 trains a day, with as many as 6 on peak days. Each train carries more than 600 tons of durians.
As connections grow along the railway, so do opportunities for people-to-people exchanges. Vanafon is one example. Inspired by his own experience studying in China, he now runs an education consultancy in Laos and has already helped more than 30 Laos students pursue higher education in China.
After graduation, I plan to work in China, and I hope to promote cultural and tourism exchanges between the two countries by running companies in both Laos and China.
Today, China and Laos are working together to further improve the efficiency and the quality of railway operations. As connectivity continues to grow, so too does the shared future between the two countries.
That was Yang Jinghao on boosting regional links through the China-Laos Railway. China's urged the European Union to view its trade ties with China as complementary instead of as a risk. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning made the remarks amid a debate within the European Commission about de-risking from China. She said a growing number of European businesses are expanding their presence in China.
China-EU trade cooperation comes from shared interests. At its core, it's the result of comparative advantages and market competition working together. Complementary strengths are not a risk, and integrated interests are not a threat. Over the past 50 years or so, annual trade between China and Europe has grown more than 300-fold, and two-way investment has reached nearly $206 billion. That speaks volumes about the strong momentum and bright prospects of China-EU cooperation. Trade protectionism goes against the laws of economics and ultimately benefits no one.
A survey by the EU Chamber of Commerce in China shows 68% of European companies are staying or expanding operations in China, while nearly one-third of them are onshoring further in the country. The 29th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum is underway in Russia's second-largest city. The forum is a key event for attracting foreign investment. This year's forum brings together about 20,000 representatives from political, business, and academic circles across more than 100 countries and territories. Dasha Chernashova has more from St. Petersburg.
Well, it is a major political and economic event of the Russian calendar. The St. Petersburg International Economic Forum is the venue where government officials, international organizations are meeting with business and with the representatives of the region so that they can all benefit from better networking. But also it defines the agenda when we look at the economic spectrum. This year's theme is pragmatic dialogue, the path to stable future. Pragmatic dialogue is something that Moscow is trying to build with international partners, and the Russian president will be holding bilateral talks on the sidelines of this forum and giving a speech at the plenary session. Among the highest profile guests will be Chinese Vice President Han Zheng, and his participation does reflect the growing importance of Moscow-Beijing cooperation. We understand that in their bilateral negotiations they will be talking about further deepening of the ties, particularly after Putin's visit to China. There will be delegations from including India, Indonesia. They are also expected to attend, and Saudi Arabia is the guest of this year. That's the guest country, and they will be represented by the Minister of Energy. So a lot is being discussed at this forum, and it does seem that this Russian Davos is something that is attracting international attention a lot, even though it has been sidelined by the Western countries. This year we are seeing the official American delegation present at the forum, something which has come as a surprise, and also some Russian officials are saying that European countries are still being represented by some participants of the business communities as well as some parties from different political spectrum across Europe.
That was Dasha Chernashova reporting. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said at the forum that her country and China's strategic coordination has been and will continue to be key in maintaining global stability and improving global governance.
буквально пару недель назад, когда президент Российской Федерации.
Recently, the Russian president visited the capital of China and held talks with President Xi. We can say that the Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation between Russia and China truly works. Entering the 21st century, our relations began to develop on a large scale, intensively and productively, precisely on the basis of the treaty. The two countries coordinate their positions both on international platforms and on key strategic issues that matter to both countries and the entire world. China and Russia undoubtedly put the national interests first. But at the same time, both countries understand that all of humanity faces a range of challenges that all countries are confronting, and these challenges must be addressed and answered collectively by all nations.
Russian President Vladimir Putin paid a state visit to China last month, his 25th visit to the country. Coming up, Iran says it struck a U.S. destroyer in the Strait of Hormuz. Washington denies the claim.
China has unveiled a landmark reform that could affect hundreds of millions of migrant workers and their families. Supporters say it's a breakthrough for fairness and opportunity. Critics wonder whether cities can afford it and whether implementation will match ambition. Could this unleash new consumer spending and housing demand? Will China's biggest cities become even more attractive? And what happens to smaller cities if talent and people keep flowing away? This week at the Chat Lounge, we explore whether China is entering the next phase of urbanization and what that means for the country's future. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and on CGTN Radio.
12 minutes past the hour. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says its Navy targeted a U.S. destroyer in the Gulf of Oman, citing aggressive actions and violations of Strait of Hormuz regulations. Iran claims the destroyer attempted to approach territorial waters and that its Navy identified and struck the vessel's command center. A U.S. Central Command denied the claim, saying U.S. ships continue to operate safely and unimpeded. Uncertainty is surrounding ongoing ceasefire efforts. Tehran says the primary issue for the talks is ending the war on all fronts, including Lebanon. The Trump administration is seeking to decouple regional conflicts from the negotiations. President Donald Trump says Washington's trying to separate Iran talks from the regional conflict between Israel and Lebanon.
We're trying to separate it. I mean, you know, it's a very different kind of a thing. We actually spoke with Hezbollah for the first time ever. We didn't know they spoke. And they agreed yesterday they're not going to shoot. Israel's not going to shoot. We're just going to see. But I'd like to separate it. I'd like to have a separate thing because it is separate.
Trump also says Iran's agreed not to have nuclear weapons, but Tehran could still change its mind. He also says the Iranian Supreme Leader is giving final approval in the talks. Tony Waterman has more from Washington, D.C.
According to President Trump, Iran has already agreed to some very major concessions. He gave this podcast interview with the conservative columnist Miranda Devine. That aired this morning. And in that interview, the president said that Iran had already agreed to not have a nuclear weapon. This is something that has long been a red line for the Iranian regime. The president also said that the new supreme leader, Ayatollah Moshtaba Khamenei, is now involved in negotiations with the United States.
The people we're dealing with, we know they're the people that are leading the country right now.
Is it the gay Ayatollah?
He's involved, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, I think they have a lot of respect for him.
So who's making the decisions?
Well, they say he is giving approval. Because that's the way it has been for a long, long time. His father and then him, I guess it's a succession. But we seem to be getting along quite well.
Would you like to meet him or meet any of the Iranians in person?
I've never thought of it, actually. It's a very good question. I'll think of it. Yeah, I'd like to meet him. I like to meet everybody. I'd like to meet him.
And he admitted that the Strait of Hormuz could remain closed throughout the summer. So very bad news there if that is true for global energy prices.
That was Tony Waterman reporting. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a resolution to limit President Donald Trump's war powers against Iran. The vote was 215 to 208, with 4 Republicans breaking party ranks to vote in favor. It's the latest setback for President Trump in Congress, even as Republicans hold slim majorities in both chambers. For now, though, the vote remains largely symbolic as it expresses Congress's view, but doesn't carry the force of law. Republicans overwhelmingly backed the president when the war started, but some began to waver as the conflict dragged on with no clear end in sight. Republicans are concerned that the war will hurt the party's prospects in the midterm elections coming up in November. Iranian state media has reported that the Revolutionary Guards denied responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Kuwait's international airport, blaming the destruction instead on U.S. interceptor missiles that failed to hit their targets. The U.S. military rejected that claim, saying that Iranian drones deliberately targeted the airport. This comes after Kuwaiti authorities said one person was killed and dozens more injured when ballistic missiles and drones struck civilian and vital facilities across the country, including the airport, in attacks they attributed to Iran. Kuwait summoned Iran's chargé d'affaires, expelled 2 Iranian diplomats, and reduced the size of Iran's diplomatic mission in the country, while reiterating that its territory and airspace have not been used to attack any country. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he and U.S. President Donald Trump remain aligned on key goals regarding Iran, despite tactical differences. Netanyahu said he speaks with Trump every 2 days and that the two leaders share the same objectives: preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and ensuring Israel's security. He added they're committed to disarming Hezbollah and pursuing the demilitarization of Lebanon. Netanyahu acknowledged occasional disagreements with the U.S. administration, but said such issues are resolved without losing sight of what he called their core objectives. His remarks followed Trump's revelation of a heated phone call with Netanyahu earlier in the week, while insisting that the two leaders continue to work well together. Israel and Lebanon have agreed to move forward with a ceasefire amid a joint statement released after trilateral negotiations in Washington. The ceasefire depends on a complete end to Hezbollah attacks and the evacuation of all Hezbollah operatives from the South Litani sector. Although both sides agreed to a ceasefire last month, fighting continued in the weeks that followed. Iran has said it'll not back any deal to end the conflict with the U.S. and Israel unless the ceasefire is also extended to Lebanon. The joint statement added that Lebanon and Israel will continue direct talks, aiming to build confidence and resolve outstanding issues. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country's military has struck the St. Petersburg oil terminal in Russia.
We have made significant progress in deep strikes. Today we reached a target 1,100 kilometers away, and this isn't an isolated incident. It is a specific target and a concrete result. We have the security guarantees that allow us to end this war on equal footing with the Russians in any diplomatic format.
The attack came hours before the opening of the 29th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Zelensky also says he's ready for direct talks with Russian President Putin to end the war, adding that he cannot wait for other global conflicts to be resolved before it's Ukraine's turn. This is seen as a reference to U.S. brokered talks and Washington's focus on Iran. Zelensky says Ukraine's intensified strikes deep inside Russia have enabled it to negotiate an end to the war on equal footing. Dasha Chernashova has more.
Well, we do know from the Russian Ministry of Defense that at least 354 Ukrainian drones have been intercepted over the different regions of Russia overnight and more than 700 over the course of the past 24 hours. They do say that most of those attacks have been repelled, but in the city of St. Petersburg, Russia's second largest city, where the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum has kicked off on Wednesday, indeed, the visitors of this forum could see the plumes of smoke as they were moving towards the platform of this forum where it is being held. We do know that the attack took place in several regions of the city, in Kronstadt, in other parts, in Krasnoselsky region of St. Petersburg and Kirovsky region. And the local authorities are saying that at least 4 people got injured as a result of those attacks. No deaths have been reported, but we're also hearing that some of the civilian and residential houses have been damaged. The Kremlin responding to how Moscow may possibly react to to these attacks, saying that Russia is already carrying out the so-called systemic strikes against the military infrastructure of Ukraine, and the guarantee of these attacks not repeating would be the continuation of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine and the elimination of the Ukrainian capacity to carry out such strikes deep inside the Russian territory, because St. Petersburg is located quite far from the border with Ukraine, more than 1,000 kilometers away.
That was Dasha Chernyshova reporting. Coming up, the WHO notes encouraging signs in the fight against Ebola.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
21 past the hour. The head of the World Health Organization says he's encouraged by efforts to combat the Ebola outbreak, despite the challenges facing the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus was speaking in Geneva after a visit to the DRC. He said 344 cases have been confirmed, including 60 deaths. The number of suspected cases has been reduced to 116 from over 1,000 last week. But he says the WHO's risk assessment remains unchanged.
Very high at the national level, high at the regional level, and low at the global level. The outbreak had a big head start, and we're still behind, but under the leadership of the government of DRC, we're catching up. So far, 6 people have recovered in DRC and 2 in Uganda, showing that people can survive Ebola if they have access to care and go to health facilities as soon as they show symptoms.
The WHO chief adds that what he calls blanket travel restrictions imposed by countries are disrupting supply chains and hindering the response.
WHO recommends exit screening at airports, ports, and border crossings to prevent the exportation of cases and contacts. We ask countries that have imposed blanket travel restrictions to lift them. Fourth, community mistrust is a serious barrier. Some community leaders told me that they believe Ebola is not real. Building trust with the communities is therefore critical to bringing the outbreak under control.
A CGTN survey shows that 31% of respondents are most concerned about the shortage in supplies and personnel hampering the quick response to Ebola control. Public concerns about the outbreak worsening and the risk of a broader global crisis were tied at 28% each. 13% said they were most worried that the virus could become more deadly. Medical Director Isaac Mugeni with the Rwampara General Hospital is calling for more assistance amid their shortage in medical supplies.
Our demand for personal protective equipment is huge. We need a huge amount of protective equipment and medicine. There isn't any medicine so far. Actually, we are facing a severe shortage in medicine, protective equipment, and even medical personnel. We need assistance so that we can deploy more medical workers to take care of those patients.
The hospital has so far received 20 patients with Ebola symptoms and reported 1 death. Chinese medical experts are in the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to help contain the spread of Ebola. Their visit comes 2 weeks after the WHO declared the Ebola outbreak in northeastern DRC a global health emergency. Delegation head Liu Ming says they're ready to work alongside local health authorities to strengthen surveillance, prevention, and response measures.
We will also work with the DRC's health authorities and research institutions to closely monitor how the disease is developing, especially how the outbreak is evolving. Based on that, we will help develop the next steps for prevention and control, including specific response and assistance plans.
Yu Wenzhou with the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention says they've forged a strategy.
By dispatching experts to boost Africa's public health capacity, China has forged a tripartite model: Chinese technology, African application, and international standards. This opens a new pathway for global health governance. Our Ebola aid and broader anti-epidemic strategies are deeply rooted in the vision of a global community of health for all. To succeed, we must establish a multilateral coordination mechanism. No single nation or organization can tackle this alone. Effective containment requires international organizations and countries uniting to support the front lines.
In neighboring Uganda, healthcare workers at the China-Uganda Friendship Hospital are balancing the need to prevent the spread of the virus with the need to keep essential medical services running. Strict screening measures, isolation facilities, and enhanced protective protocols have become part of daily operations. Despite the heightened precautions, the pain management and acupuncture clinic continues to serve dozens of patients each week, ensuring healthcare services remain available. The High Court of Kenya has ordered the government to disclose details of a proposed U.S.-linked Ebola quarantine center, halting its establishment. The courts also barred the admission of individuals exposed to the virus, pending a legal challenge by the Kenyan Law Society and local petitioners. Kenyan President William Ruto has defended the plan as part of national preparedness in Kenya's partnership with the U.S. But local residents are vocal in their opposition, citing health risks and a lack of community consultation. Enoch Sokolia has more.
In recent days, Nanyuki town in Kenya's Laikipia County has attracted local and international attention following reports that it had been selected as the site of a proposed quarantine facility for United States citizens potentially exposed to the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Well, some residents say they await more information from authorities. Others have expressed concern over the possibility of hosting a facility to cater for people exposed to one of the world's deadliest virus.
I strongly oppose, because Ebola is a very contagious disease, extremely contagious. So you cannot go and import the disease here and bring it to us and tell us you're going to contain it. Totally unacceptable.
What we are seeing is making us sad. First, there's no community participation, which is the first thing they should have done. You just can't do things by force.
This matter has since moved to the corridors of justice, with the country's High Court ordering the government to make public details of the US-linked Ebola facility. The court also extended the suspension on the implementation of the Kenya-US deal, pending the hearing and determination of a case challenging the now controversial arrangement, which critics argue could put public health at risk. This orders effectively and legally poses any steps toward establishing this facility, as legal questions surrounding this project are considered. Petitioners are questioning the legality of the agreement and whether adequate public participation and consultation were undertaken before the proposal was announced. Nanyuki residents seem to agree with the petitioners.
And we are not relenting, and we are not backing down.
President William Ruto's administration has defended the move as a strategic health partnership with the US. The president says it also ties Kenya directly to the global emergency response networks.
I am very confident about what we are doing as a country. I can assure the people of Kenya that the agreement between the government of Kenya and the American government is for the good of our country and for the partnership.
Residents ask a simple question: why bring a highly infectious disease to a country with 0 active Ebola cases?
And that was Enoch Sokolia reporting. We're at 29 past the hour, checking the forecast, and Beijing's cloudy overnight, thunder showers developing tomorrow. The low's 15, it's up to 26 on Friday. Shanghai will see a light rainfall tonight, becoming overcast tomorrow, low of 23 and a high of 28. Chongqing will be overcast, becoming cloudy tomorrow, low of 23, highs 32. Nanchang will see thunder showers through tomorrow, down to 24 degrees this evening, it's 32 on Friday. Lhasa will have showers tonight, becoming cloudy, a low of 12 and a high of 23. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, down to 23 degrees this evening, 36 tomorrow. Vientiane will have moderate rainfall through tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 31. Phnom Penh's getting a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 34 degrees. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, the president of Laos is now in Beijing as he continues his state visit in China. Iran says its navy's targeted a U.S. destroyer in the Strait of Hormuz, but Washington's denied that claim. And the World Health Organization head says he's encouraged by efforts to fight the Ebola outbreak in the DRC. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday. Still to come. In business, China pushes back on claims that state subsidies are giving its companies an unfair advantage. In sports, upsets and milestones at the French Open. In culture and entertainment, China's hosting a dialogue on civilization in Dunhuang. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. Now to check of the day's headlines, here's Tianlu.
Thank you, Shane. Lao President Thulon Sysilets is in Beijing to continue a state visit to China. Sysilets, who is also General Secretary of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee, began his state visit in the eastern Zhejiang Province on Tuesday. Beijing has entered its annual flood season, with authorities taking active steps to reduce the risk. Before the season began, officials inspected flood-prone areas and improved monitoring and early warning systems. High-tech tools, including drones and underground water gauges, are now in use. Officials identified over 9,600 geological risk points, mostly in northern and western mountain areas. More than 1,000 emergency shelters have been built in mountain villages. Xu Jingyao is deputy head of a town in Fangshan district. He says roadside slopes have been reinforced in districts like Fangshan.
In places where the terrain is particularly steep, the soil is loose, and there are people's homes right below. We have carried out reinforcement projects. We use concrete lattice structures to stabilize the slope.
Officials say 6 major rivers and 20 key mountain channels have been dredged and repaired. The Fire and Rescue Department has set up 470 mobile patrol units near high-risk areas and transit stations. A report shows that the eco-environmental quality of Zhejiang remained stable in 2025. According to the Regional Ecology Department, all 7 prefecture-level cities met the national air quality standard in the southwestern Chinese region, with over 99% of days with good or excellent air quality. Major rivers and lakes, including Namtso, also maintain good water quality. As a key ecological barrier for the country, Zhejiang now boasts over 15 million hectares of forest, 80 million hectares of grasslands, and the nation's largest wetland area of over 8 million hectares. The region is also home to about 170 nationally protected wild plant species, more than 1,000 wild vertebrates, and nearly 250 nationally protected animal species. A new forest shows the global semiconductor market is set to surge, driven by AI demand. The World Semiconductor Trade Statistics Report predicts the market will grow nearly 90% in 2026, reaching a record $1.5 trillion. That's about 10.2 trillion yuan. Growth of another 26% is expected next year, pushing the market to over $1.9 trillion. The report says data center expansion has exceeded expectations. Memory chips will lead the surge, with a 249% increase this year alone, topping $800 billion. Logic chips are also projected to grow 37%. The Americas and Asia Pacific will be the two main engines driving continued growth across all major regions in 2027. An international intelligent equipment and AI expo is underway in Guangzhou, featuring over 3,000 new products and technologies. These include aviation-grade transmission systems, embodied robots, low-altitude logistics drones, and smart factory lines. Covering 70,000 square meters, the event hosts nearly 700 global exhibitors. Moving beyond simple product displays, the expo creates real-world scenarios. One company showcased a service robot that replaces manual elevator inspections, offering 24/7 monitoring. A highlight was the Polis Technology Zone, where officers, humanoid robots, robot dogs, and drones work together in simulated emergencies. Two major initiatives on digital transformation and tech ecosystem building were also launched, alongside several cutting-edge AI achievements and case studies.
Thank you very much. That's Tian Li with headlines. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in business, China pushes back on claims that state subsidies are giving its companies an unfair advantage.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 past now, and turning to business. Here's Wang Zihang.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed lower on Thursday. The Shanghai Composite was down over 0.6%. The Shenzhen component lost around 1/3%. Component and chemicals for electronics were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index declined almost 1.5%. Japan's Nikkei dropped nearly 1.4%. China has dismissed claims that the success of its companies is driven by state subsidies, pushing back against an OECD report alleging that they benefit from an unfair advantage. The Commerce Ministry says the OECD report's conclusions are one-sided and arbitrary. The ministry says the so-called subsidies mentioned in the report lack uniform standards or statistical frameworks and are detached from the WTO consensus. It also criticized the report for attributing the global success of Chinese companies solely to government subsidies, while completely overlooking their actual competitive advantages. China is playing an increasingly important role in renewable energy, especially in the rapidly growing solar plus storage model. According to a report from the International Renewable Energy Agency, combining solar power with battery storage is becoming one of the most cost-effective and reliable ways to deliver clean electricity around the clock. The report says China has developed one of the world's most affordable and stable solar plus storage models, with electricity from these projects now costing less than building new coal-fired power plants. By the end of last year, China's installed new renewable energy capacity had reached over 2.3 billion kilowatts, accounting for about 60% of the country's total power capacity. Now, for more on this, Michael Wang earlier spoke with Lin Boqiang, Dean of the China Institute for Studies in Energy Policy at Xiamen University.
The world right now is talking about the surge in power demand from AI data centers. As we see data centers multiply and computing demand surges, how important do you think is solar energy, solar power in general for China when it comes to advancing its AI economy?
Yes, it seems to me that AI has a large impact on the incremental electricity demand in China and also globally, particularly United States. There are estimates in China that under the optimistic situation that the AI data center could reach the energy consumption, electricity consumption, roughly the same level as whole residential electricity consumption. And that's quite substantial by 2030. So it seems to me at this moment the AI has created a huge incremental for the electricity demand. We have a huge coal-based system, so that's not a problem. The problem is how to meet the AI demand with low carbon and clean. And that's where the solar and storage come in. We have some calculation in the western regions where the solar resources are very good. The cost of the solar plus storage is actually compatible to Chinese industrial commercial tariff. If compared with industrial and commercial tariff on average to the developed countries like United States, Europe, it's actually cheaper. So China has over last decades or so proved that the solar and plus storage is workable now. If we need to use it, your electricity could be cheaper. So if you look at the U.S. right now, the data center create a huge problem on the electricity demand. If U.S. willing to use solar plus storage, it will be substantially cheaper than the natural gas turbines to support the AI center, and also could be shorter. On average, the largest scale of the solar plus storage takes about 6 to 12 months, while the gas turbines normally take at least 2 years to some even estimate to 7 years because of the turbine equipment supply is not sufficient. So all in all, if AI, U.S. It seems to me at this moment to meet the data center electricity demand, the solar plus storage is the best choice.
That was Professor Lin Boqiang on China's solar power. Now, China leads the world and dominates the entire supply chain in solar energy. The country accounts for roughly 80% of global solar panel production and regularly installs more renewable energy capacity in a single year than the rest of the world combined. Zheng Junfeng has more from the Solar Energy Conference underway in Shanghai.
Solar modules, PV components, batteries, inverters, and intelligent solutions, plus all the key players.
From solar panels to battery, the entire value chain of solar industry is here at SNAC 2026, the biggest solar event in the world.
One of the largest exhibitors is Skyworth Solar, a leading solar module maker. And executives say a key goal of the company is to expand its global presence.
So actually, we have very big ambition. I think to be a very healthy company, a very international company, we have to have at least overseas income dominate 50% of the total revenue.
That's the target.
Yeah, because right now it's 90% from residential from China.
Ms. Chu says the company's global strategy has gone far beyond just selling solar panels.
So we are like a one-stop solution. We're providing solution. We're providing service for 25 years, providing operation, providing design, and O&M and everything. So the equipment, panels, everything is only part of our solution.
And that's exactly what foreign buyers want.
Yes, whole solution, even high voltage solutions together with the good brands, with batteries, with everything.
I think Chinese companies can provide not only good products, also complete solution for different scenarios, which makes them very competitive in the global market.
International buyers say missing out on solar can be risky for energy security, considering current oil prices.
Countries that don't focus on solar are going to suffer a lot with these energy prices. And the diversification on where these plants need to be and markets that manufacturers in China want to access is very important.
The organizer of SNAC stresses solar's role in meeting AI's demand for electricity.
Solar plus storage is definitely the best match because the price-wise is very competitive compared to the traditional, the fossil energy right now. And we are seeing a blooming in AI DC, a need for AI demand. It's a new trend that we have right now.
According to the International Energy Agency, global renewable energy could double from 2025 levels by the end of the decade, with 80% of new clean energy capacity expected to come from solar, and China would remain the world's biggest growth market.
That was Zheng Junfeng at the Solar Energy Conference in Shanghai. Beijing is advancing its pilot program for boosting the integration of intelligent city infrastructure and intelligent connected vehicles. Its smart transportation platform leverages 3D technology and front-end sensing devices to generate a holographic intersection imagery. Large models analyze real-time traffic flow, queue lengths, and congestion conditions. Currently, artificial intelligence is powering traffic lights at 19 intersections in the city. The AI system can extend the green light during congestion. Most of the intersections reported a 21% increase in traffic speed and a 19% drop in the congestion index. Officials say the intelligent system marks a shift from signals that direct cars to signals that adapt traffic. SpaceX has unveiled plans to raise $75 billion in an initial public offering that would value the company at nearly $1.8 trillion. The company says in a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission that SpaceX plans to sell over 555 million shares at an initial price of $135 a share. The offering could take place as soon as June the 12th. It would shatter the $29.4 billion fundraising record for an IPO held by Gulf giant Saudi Aramco.
All right, thank you very much. So that's Wang Ziheng with business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. And coming up in sports, upsets and milestones at the French Open.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
46 past now, and turning to sports. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. We start with tennis. Russian teenager Diana Schneider has pulled off one of the biggest surprises of the French Open, defeating world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka to reach her first Grand Slam semi-final. Sabalenka, a 28-year-old chasing her first Roland Garros title, appeared in control early, but struggled in the windy and cool conditions. Schneider, seeded 25th, stayed composed and turned the match around, claiming victory in a remarkable late surge. Sabalenka said it would take some time for her to recover from this loss.
Just want to quit tennis right now, but we'll see. We'll see in a few days. Hopefully I'll get back on track mentally. I feel like mentally I couldn't really recover after a second set, and I think that was the biggest mistake from me. I don't know when was the last time that happened to me that I lost 10 games in a row, but I don't know, I guess mentally I got into a very deep, dark hole over there, and I just couldn't get back mentally on track.
Schneider will now face fellow Russian first-time semi-finalist Maya Hvalinska, setting up an unexpected showdown in Paris. On the men's side, Italian tennis player Flavio Cavalli reached a milestone in his career, advancing to his first Grand Slam semi-final at French Open. The 10th-seeded Cavalli overcame Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime in a breakthrough performance, marking his first victory over top 10 opponent at a major. Cavalli called his first Grand Slam semi-final a dream come true.
I'm very happy to be sit here and winning about this match. It means a lot for me, and it's the first semi-final in a Grand Slam. It's dream come true, and I think today I played a really good match. Also, after a tough first set with a tough condition.
The 24-year-old, who recently claimed his third ATP Tour title in Acapulco, will now face fellow Italian Matteo Arnaldi in what will be the first all-Italian men's semi-final in Grand Slam history. In basketball, the New York Knicks came from behind to defeat the San Antonio Spurs 105-95 to take the opening game of the NBA Finals on Wednesday. Led by Jaylen Brunson, the Knicks overcame an early deficit and seized control in the second half to secure the victory. Brunson praised his team's resilience and togetherness, saying those qualities made a difference on the night when New York faced a tough challenge. The win extends the Knicks' impressive playoff run and gives them an early advantage in the championship series. Meanwhile, the Spurs will look to bounce back when the two teams meet again in Game 2 on Friday. Now turning to football, Spain continued its preparations for the upcoming World Cup with a training session at the national team's headquarters in Madrid ahead of a friendly against Iraq. The reigning European champions will play their final match on home soil before traveling to the United States for the tournament. Midfielders Fabian Ruiz and Martin Zubimendi, along with goalkeeper David Raya, have joined Spain's 26-man squad following their club commitments in the UEFA Champions League final. Head coach Luis de la Fuente also provided an update on young star Lamine Yamal, saying the Barcelona forward will miss the Iraq friendly as he recovers from hamstring injury. However, De La Fuente remained optimistic that 18-year-old will be fit for Spain's World Cup opener later this month.
The plan is to stick to what we'd planned, and our schedule gave us confidence that he could be ready for 15th of June. There are still a few days to go, so we'll see how things actually pan out. Things are generally going very well, but there might be a day where we have to put something on hold. I don't know, I'm just speculating, but if everything continues as it has so far, it could be ready to start on 15th. But does not guarantee we have to play for that reason.
Spain begins its Group H campaign on June the 15th, with Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia and Uruguay also in the group. Real Madrid could see the return of Jose Mourinho as head coach if Florentino Perez is re-elected club president this Sunday. Perez confirmed that Mourinho, who previously managed the club from 2010 to 2013, would resume the role, a move long anticipated in Spanish football circles. Mourinho's previous stint brought a La Liga title, a Copa del Rey, and a Spanish Super Cup during a period when the club faced stiff competition from Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. And finally, the Chinese women's national team suffered a 2-1 defeat to Russia in the CFA Team China International Women's Football Competition in Wuhan. The match was part of China's fourth national team training camp of the year, preparing for the 2026 Asian Games and the 2027 Women's World Cup. Despite controlling much of the game and creating several scoring chances, China was unable to convert its opportunities. The teams are set to meet again in a closed-door training match on Sunday, giving the coaching staff another chance to assess players and fine-tune strategies ahead of upcoming tournaments.
All right, thank you. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in culture and entertainment, China's hosting a dialogue on civilization in Dunhuang.
The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the art of war will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war, with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Find Decoding the Art of War wherever you listen.
52 past the hour. In culture and entertainment, the third World Conference of Sinologists has opened in Dunhuang, a historic crossroad of the ancient Silk Road. The event in northwest China brings together scholars, researchers, and other representatives from around the world, focusing on how civilizational dialogue can help address global challenges. Huang Yue reports.
The third World Conference of Sinologists in Dunhuang is being held under the theme Pulling Wisdom of Civilizations to Jointly Address Challenges of Our Times. The conference comes as geopolitical tensions, regional conflicts, and growing mistrust between nations continue to reshape the global landscape. Participants say that in an increasingly fragmented world, exchanges among civilizations can help reduce misunderstanding, bridge differences, and foster greater international cooperation.
Today, the international order and international law are facing serious challenges. That is why I believe China's call for renewed multilateralism and stronger international cooperation is especially meaningful at this moment, as the world struggles with growing disorder in global governance.
Many discussions here also centered on a set of global initiatives proposed by China, including the Global Development Initiative and the Global Civilization Initiative. Scholars say these initiatives reflect the traditional Chinese belief in harmony and coexistence. They say such ancient wisdom offers useful insights for addressing conflicts and uncertainty in today's world.
This is the philosophy of inclusiveness, and I think today what China, contemporary China, is applying this philosophy that we are all on the same sky. China, with its global initiative, security initiative, civilization initiative, is always proposing to develop this philosophy that we are all friends and we are not enemies.
For centuries, Dunhuang has connected travelers, merchants, and ideas across continents. Many sinologists say the discussions taking place here are a powerful symbol of how openness and exchanges between different civilizations can help to shape history, and more importantly, help to rebuild trust across borders.
That was Huang Yue reporting. Online data shows that China's 2026 box office has already surpassed 15.9 billion yuan, more than 2.3 billion US dollars. Word-of-mouth hit Dear You has earned more than 1.5 billion yuan since its release and currently ranks as the year's second highest-grossing film. The movie will continue screening in theaters through June 30th. International audiences can expect to see that film in cinemas abroad in the coming months. The National Art Museum of China has hosted an exhibition showcasing the work of contemporary artists from Jiangsu Province, titled Radiance of Jiangsu, Art Horizons of Spring. It featured dozens of paintings and prints. The show highlighted the technical skill and creative vitality of Jiangsu artists, a tradition that stretches back centuries to masters like Gu Kaizhi, who lived in the 4th and 5th centuries, and the four masters of the Ming Dynasty. A new exhibition in Shanghai is bringing the ancient Silk Road to life through a blend of historical relics and contemporary art. Titled How Long is the Silk Road?, the exhibition at the Dunhuang Contemporary Art Museum runs through the end of October. It features 65 cultural relics dating back from the Warring States period to the Tang Dynasty, alongside 26 new artworks created by artists from China and abroad. A museum director, Du Chenyan, says the exhibition explores the Silk Road not simply as a trade route, but also as a symbol of cultural exchange that continues to inspire artists. Northeast Chinese cities stepped up efforts in recent years to safeguard the intangible cultural heritage of the Hejia people. Tongjiang is home to one of the largest Hejia communities in China. Their heritage includes Hejian Yimakan storytelling, fish skin craftsmanship, and local fishing and hunting customs. UNESCO inscribed the group's storytelling style on its representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity last December. The age-old oral tradition has passed down through generations of the Hejia ethnic group. And Amman has hosted the Jordanian finals of the 25th Chinese Proficiency Competition for foreign college students. 10 university students competed in Chinese language speeches, impromptu question and answer sessions, and talent performances, demonstrating their language skills and understanding of Chinese culture. The organizers encourage students to continue learning Chinese and help deepen people-to-people ties between Jordan and China. We're at 57 past. Beijing's cloudy overnight. Thunder showers developing tomorrow. The low's 15. It's up to 26 on Friday. Shanghai will see a light rainfall tonight, becoming overcast tomorrow. A low of 23 and a high of 28. Chongqing will see overcast conditions tonight. Cloudy tomorrow. Low of 23 and a high of 32. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, the president of Laos now in Beijing as he continues his state visit in China. And Iran says its Navy's targeted a U.S. destroyer, but Washington's denied that claim. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I
don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy, and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio.